Welcome, everyone. It's a great Saturday night and another episode of Four Guys Roundtable Show with my lovely cohorts around the circle of AJ Nitro, Darth Pack, Coach Jeremy, and moi. That's what you're going to call me. Moi. There you go.
Moi.
Just going to call you moi.
Put moi down there.
Moi. All night long.
But if we call you, no, that just doesn't make sense. I'm not doing that.
Oh, yeah, no, I can't do that. That just sounds weird.
So I have to tell you guys something. So we all know about that song WAP, correct?
I mean, yes, we do.
Before. So
I know of it. I have not.
They should add an F to the end of that. Just think.
Yeah. I see where you're going with that one.
Jesus, Jeremy.
So
then it could be a comical song instead of a disgusting song.
So one of my friends I play Call of Duty with, he sent me a message on Facebook, and the top of it says WAP. On the bottom it says weaponized assault penguins, and I was like, and there's a penguin with like a strap with all the bullets, and he has a machine gun. I'm like, dude, we should change our like clan tag on Call of Duty to like WAP 9, just because people in the server, like when you come onto a server, everyone's like, random people are talking that are like in a group together, and then people are like, oh, and they start talking about dicks and all kinds of other bullshit. So
it's just like a podcast with Jeremy and Joe. So
yeah, pretty much. So so I'm just like, man, we should change it to WAP 9. So then when people come on, because people pay attention like what your names are, because people even like, oh, look at that name, make fun of it, or like, oh, it's a cool name, or a clan tag or whatever. So accordingly, they're gonna like make fun of us. So we can like create our own little, like, he's gonna do his redneck voice and I'm gonna do my British voice, how horrible it is, and we're just gonna explain how penguins are awesome, and we are the weaponized assault penguin clan, and we're just going to keep running with that and see how much it pisses people off. Yeah, that's my story. Take it or leave it.
Now you talk about weaponized penguins. I mean, we've seen that though. Batman Returns.
Yes, I know, but these are cooler. These are weaponized assault penguins, not just weaponized penguins.
So these aren't just like mind-controlled penguins that are carrying one single rocket on their back.
No, absolutely not. These are weaponized assault penguins, like penguins on steroids, like Rambo style. That's what the picture kind of looked like. I will find it and send it to you guys. It's quite funny.
Do these penguins start shouting that they drew first blood?
No, but I could pretend and make up a penguin voice and do it while I'm playing the game. I mean, it's fairly natural.
Just kind of curious. These maybe hear what a penguin saying that would sound like, trying to imitate Stallone saying, "They drew first blood, not me."
Correct.
So
I'll come up with something. Don't you worry.
Hear the penguin version of that would probably be entertaining.
It would be. So how the rest of you guys doing this evening on this lovely Saturday night?
Oh, it is a lovely Saturday night. I'm enjoying myself.
One of us just had a birthday yesterday. I wonder which one of us that was.
Oh,
yeah, that dude named Coach. Happy belated birthday, because I have not been on Facebook the past couple of days, so I didn't.
Isn't that something for most of us? Isn't that Facebook has become our, hey, it's somebody's birthday notifier?
Yeah, pretty much.
Unless, of course, your name is AJ. AJ just happens, he's good like that. He remembers people's birthdays.
I do remember the three of yours. Yeah, I don't know everybody's, but the three of you guys I do pretty much remember. So
or he puts in his Google Calendar and it just pops up an alert a week before.
I remember my parents, my sisters, and my nieces and nephews. That's about it.
One of my friends from high school, his is on tax day, so I always know Jeremy. Well, tax day except for the last 2 years. Yeah. I always know Jeremy's is the day after tax day.
Yeah,
well, normal tax day.
I'm gonna have to start remembering that. One of the partners, which therefore technically makes him one of my bosses, at my accounting firm, his birthday is on tax day too. So we've long had fun jokes about that at tax day dinners. So, which of course we did not have again this year. So, well, Technically, it hasn't been tax day yet, but it's also increasingly hard to do that.
So
Very true.
If I've got this right, I think I can see who is hanging out with us, and
Oh,
it's
really?
all around detailing is hanging around with us.
Oh,
so
that's Rob.
Yeah, I know.
That's the Rob T, baby.
Big shout out to Rob T for joining us from All Around Detailing. Joe, you want to give him a little pub? What the heck word am I trying to say? Am I using the right word? I feel like I'm going half goofy now.
We want to plug.
Are you trying to say
plug?
Are you trying to say
publicity? Yes,
a plug, not a pub. We want the pub is where I got my food from today for dinner. Not. This is why I only talk so often.
Lord, praise your soul, Jeremy. Praise your soul.
I know.
Yes, people, go out to Rob T, All Around Detailing. Go to our Facebook page. We have him on there. Click on there. He has good rates. He does. Man, he will clean the outside and inside your car like it is brand banking new, showroom style. They also, I believe, he's doing tinting now, so hit him up for window tinting, and he has some other things there coming down the line. I think of other things they're going to be doing at all around detailing. A big shout out to Rob T. You know, he's been I've known him for a long time. He worked with me at my job I currently work at, but he's put a lot of hard work into getting to where he is right now with his detail. And it's been many years, but he's at that place now. So props to him. Hard work definitely pays off, people. Absolutely. So you want some detailing, please go to our Facebook page and hit up his link. I have it on there, and get your car clean for the spring and summertime, people. Get to it.
Yeah, buddy. Oh man. Yeah. This week has been this week itself has just been kind of crazy. Like Jill is my wife is getting ready for all this cheer event. Like there's a cheer banquet tomorrow for my middle child, and she is been just going crazy with all this different stuff that she's making for this cheer banquet, and it's been something else. And then yesterday, we did celebrate my birthday yesterday. It's not a big one. I'm 43, so it's not like we're going
your
all
50th
crazy.
Birthday. I know.
Yeah. Well, I look forward to my 50th. I get the 50 and I'm feeling good like I feel now. Hey, I'll be happy about that.
I'll have a mental breakdown. Yep. Yep. It's going to happen.
But
that's what I'm going to do. Something crazy.
I got this in honor of the Phillies. I got a new Phillies tee, so I'm feeling good about that. I got the Bryce Harper guy on the back. So,
Bryce Harper. I mean, he's going to be with them for 10 years, so you might as well get one of his t-shirts.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because my wife goes, does he still play for them? I don't know. Is he a good player? I'm like, yeah, he's the I guess you could call him the star player just because of his contract, but
yeah, he's the star player of the team.
Realmuto is, I think, actually probably the best hitter on their team right now. He just seems to be just super consistent and stuff like that. But it was kind of funny, and I got a big jar of M&Ms. I forgot to bring it up. I wanted to bring it. My parents, of course, being the jokesters that they are, they got me this big jar of peanut butter M&Ms because that's my favorite M&M.
I would have taken candy for my birthday. Screw it.
No, I was happy to get it. And of course, my dad got me some orange golf balls. So when we go down to Delaware this year, I can't, if I can't find my ball, then I'm absolutely blind because an orange golf ball kind of sticks out. So I got some pretty cool gifts for my birthday.
I had a bad comment to make after that, but I was going to keep it to myself.
I might have to ask my wife maybe where they are.
I was just going to say, doesn't somebody lose on them soon, for specific reasons?
They're not castrating me. I'm not a freaking bull. What?
That's an ox.
No, they do. They used to do that. I don't know if they do it anymore. They used to do it to bulls too.
Right. Then they became an ox.
Oh, is that what they become?
Term for the castrated bull.
Oh, I did not know that. Now
only Pat knows that. So.
See, now I'm. It's not only a podcast; it's an education session.
I know that as I know most things.
If Pat's on here, it could there's always a chance it turns into an education.
Well, what I was trying to say is I know that thanks to the same reason I know a lot of things. A movie. Yes, there was a joke about that in the film musical version of 1776. Believe it or not.
Ah,
okay, interesting.
Moving on.
We usually do stumpers on this show, ladies and gentlemen. I actually have. Jeremy asked earlier. Pat did not have one, but I have a baseball trivia stumper for you. Later on, I will bring that up. It was something I heard on when I was watching a White Sox game last week by the announcers. I was like, oh, kind of remember hearing about that before, but you brought it back up, so I'm going to hit that with the guys and see if they know that. Pat might. He might. I'm going to 85% say Pat will know the answer to this one, but I don't give a shit. I'm going to ask him anyway.
Yeah, I'm interested to know if I know it, so that'll be interesting.
It's kind of old school.
Peacock got somewhat slightly less terrible this week.
Did it?
Yes.
Did you watch Saved by the Bell?
No, I did not.
I did. It's horrible.
They put more, so they must have added some more stuff.
Yes, they because I think I mentioned that one web series I've been watching that's comparing and contrasting Raw and Nitro. Yes. They got Raw episodes back through 1996 online, so that's at least something. That's now it kind of sucks having to watch them with little 30-second commercials because I guess either that's just the way it is, or I don't have the right.
Well, Brian, if you pay $5 more, I think you don't have to deal with commercials.
Yes.
Well, I mean, since I signed up for that initial transition thing, so I was like, I'll let that period run out before
you have the basic premium, which you get the commercials, and then after that, it's like $4.99 plus tax. But then if you up it to the $9.99 plus tax, like the old WWE Network,
Joseph told me to watch the Stone Cold Jericho podcast, so I watched an hour of it, but I did get commercials during that, and it was annoying.
Yeah, it was kind of annoying.
I'm sure it would be, but they don't have Nitro episodes on there yet, but I do know where to find those online other places.
Which that podcast
not necessarily complete, but the Raw episodes I wasn't finding anywhere, so at least having the Raw episodes is fine. So because we just watched the Raw episode where they did a special Friday night episode where JR announced that Diesel and Razor Ramon are coming back to the WWF.
Oh, the fakeroos. They were ugly looking fakeroos too. They just looked like B-rated fakeroos.
How dare you say that about WWE Hall of Famer Kane?
Yeah, he was an ugly fakeroo. Absolutely. So I was just going to say, people need to watch the Stone Cold Jericho podcast because it is a good podcast. It's 2 hours and 9 minutes long, but it's a good podcast. They talk about some good stuff, and it's just kind of cool. It's always cool to hear how wrestlers start in the business, but Jericho is just a fascinating person in general. And he had a lot of things he had already pictured in his brain of what he wanted to do as far as his character, gimmick, so on and so on, before he even really started to grasp the concept of training and wrestling and things of that nature. Which is cool. There's a lot of cool different side stories in there that he talks about. So it's definitely a must-see. It's a good watch. You find out some interesting things, and I think there's an extras part on there where they talk about some other stuff that they didn't do on the full recording.
I mean, if you think about it, so when he talks about how Owens and when the stuff with Owens and him, they got bumped down the card at that WrestleMania and replaced by Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. That essentially was Jericho when he left. So the repercussions of that are still being felt today. Hello, AEW. If Jericho doesn't leave, we don't necessarily get AEW. So that one little thing changed everything. That one little move to bump those guys up to the second match instead of being the co-main event started the ball rolling for AEW.
Yeah. All right. So I'm just going to let you guys know who's watching. So we got my oldest is watching along with Nicole and my brother Scott. So we got some people watching. So hello to everybody out there. We appreciate you tuning in tonight. Hopefully we entertain you.
I think Nicole's more listening because she's at work and she's got her earphones in, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, listening and watching, it's all the same thing, except you just don't get to see our goofy ass faces. That's all.
She gets to hear the voices of the voices.
Does she hear voices in her head?
Voices.
Like Randy Orton.
Yeah.
Pardon? Who's talking?
All right. Do we want to talk sports, gentlemen?
Sure, we can.
Let's dive into the American market of sports. entertainment of professional sports.
So I got one, and I got a bunch of stuff from basketball. Boy, if I could talk, from basketball and football that I thought would be some interesting things to talk about. The first one I wanted to talk about, and I got a picture pulled up, so I'm going to share it out. Which oh my God, I just find it so.
Is it sex, drugs, and rock and roll?
What's that?
Is it sex, drugs, and rock and roll for baseball players?
No, I mean, it could be, but it's not.
Ruining my moment.
Yeah, I know. Sorry. So I wanted to share this picture because I was scrolling through Facebook and I saw this video come up. Dwight Howard tries to end Zion Williams's career, and they talk about this forearm shiver. So I watched this video. It's like a 20-second clip. And oh my God, can people really sell the no contact? Like, I'm not saying that Dwight Howard didn't make contact, but Zion Williams sold the shit out of this. Like,
he must have went to school and LeBron taught him.
Like, Dwight Howard doesn't like throw an elbow at him, doesn't like punch him or anything like that. Dwight Howard did have his arm out, no doubt about it, but it's not like he pushed him and threw him. From this picture, you would think like Dwight Howard like tried to run him over, and it was nothing like that. The media blew this way out of proportion. I'm like, this is some horse shit right here.
Flopping. He went to LeBron's summer school of flopping 101.
So I was just
Class
like
101.
Like, this is like, and of course, then I, very true. My brother just said basketball flop is the new soccer flop.
Oh yeah. It's totally taken over. 1000%.
It's crazy.
I mean, the college players are doing it. That's sad. I watched, so speaking of that, I found a video on YouTube when they was showing like the college players, and there were this is from this past season. Of just random, games on national television and some of the tournament games. Some of these guys just horribly flopping. Like, some guy was like in a huddle, and the guy goes like this, like just. Like this.
I saw that.
And the guy goes, oh, and he leaps backwards and falls on his ass and slides. He's looking at the ref like, yo, did you see that? And the ref's looking at him like, gave us a weird look. He just kept walking away. But they're just bad. They're taking after the NBA players. It's horrible to say that, but
it's when LeBron started, damn it.
Yeah, it's gotten
good job,
bad.
Bronny Brown.
And it's funny that they don't give some of these guys, like, they're supposed to give warnings for flop, like a flop warning, but you hardly ever see that given out unless it's like really, really exaggerated bad. Like, there is so much flopping that goes on from guys that don't really get hit in the NBA, and they're just like, and that's why I have a hard time watching NBA, because it's so bad like that. Guys want every foul. They want to make a big deal out of everything. It's like, come on, man, just play the game of basketball. Just play.
Yeah. And it's rubbing off on the college kids, because I watched a ton of college this year, and it was just like watching the games and seeing it. Not some of it wasn't really bad. I've seen, some of the ones on the YouTube video I saw, I did see. One of them was on ESPN and some of the, other stations, but it's definitely getting worse. I see more of it when you get a foul and their arms are flailing and, they barely get touched. They get touched by a pinky and they're like turning their bodies and sliding on the floor. I'm like, wow, dude, you barely got touched. What are you doing? And he's like selling him like he's an Academy Award winner. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
I'd like to thank the Academy for recognizing my flopping.
That's going to be one of the ESPN awards.
I couldn't have done it without every soccer player from the time. Excuse me. Let me rephrase that. Every male soccer player, because the females don't flop.
Yeah, I like the phantom headbutt I saw one time in soccer. The guy like pretended to get headbutt. He's like, oh my God. And it like flew 10 feet back. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. But yeah. So keeping with basketball. So the Nets played the Sixers, and this just kind of goes along load management, which I think is absolutely nuts in the NBA now, because it's like every player. It's like every player is got load management now. So the Nets and the Sixers played this week, and the Nets sat KD Aldridge, Griffin, and Harden against the Sixers.
Well, Aldridge retired the next day.
Yes, I did see that. So I understand why he sat. And that was one of the other things. Aldridge is retiring. I was like, oh, that's kind of crazy because he's had a pretty decent career,
He's had a good run,
But that was just nuts. Like from a fan's perspective, if you're going to see the Sixers, you expect two players to play, Embiid and Simmons. Okay, you want to hope to see both of those guys play. Sometimes you don't get to see both of them. But if you're going there to see the Nets also, you're expecting to see at least 3 of the 4 big guys that they have on the team.
Or even 2.
Yeah, even 2. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt, 2. They got
and this is
Kyrie
full
Irving,
season.
And that was it. I'm like, that's nuts. Like the league, and
he's the biggest bum of all of them, I think.
Yeah, I'm not a Kyrie Irving fan. I don't know how
people aren't. That guy's he's so out there right now. He just just disappears for like a day or two and comes back. And this isn't Dennis Rodman going to be on WCW Nitro. It's just Kyrie wandering off to find out if the Earth is flat. And
oh, he's not a flat earther, is he?
Oh yeah, he is.
Oh my gosh. Oh, forget it. I've now what respect I had for him.
Kids at Puke. That's what they teach these kids at Puke.
Whatever respect I did have for him, I now lost all of it.
What, Pat?
But he was only there for 1 year, right?
He was, yeah, but
yeah, I think so.
That's enough time to get taught that.
Yeah, it's just it's so I was just like, I couldn't believe it. And they were talking about this on WIP, the local Philly station, and they're just, the league needs to be able to step in and say, hey, listen, you can't like have all these guys sit. This is bad for TV ratings. This is bad for fans. It just, you can't do it. But the fact is that the way that the NBA is set up with contracts and agents and the boy, I can't think of it all of a sudden. The union, the players union, there's no way they can because the players run that league. At least that's what the analysts are saying. In all the leagues, the players really run the NBA. It's not ran by the league. It's run by the players. The players own that league, and they can really pretty much do whatever they want to, which is absolutely nuts.
I mean, you can see it. I mean, and this is the thing. You don't really see this in the other 3 sports, but the funny part is like I'm sorry. I was thinking about this the other day. So I read an article about this load management shit. And it just goes to show you, like, seriously, the times have changed. I know the league changes as decades go on, so on and so on.
Mm-hmm. It should.
But to be honest with you guys, when I get a little bit older and these guys start retiring and they're out of the NBA, I'm going to look at this generation of like 15, 20 years of NBA players. They're a bunch of pansies, like legitimately, like they're soft. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of like, pro wrestlers, veterans saying that WWE wrestling is soft right now. Well, whatever. I don't think so. But I think the NBA is soft. You have the load management and the horrible flopping, and people are like, oh, my body. Well, you know what? I know times have changed, but what do you show in college kids when you're like, oh, load management, and teams are sitting their players. I mean, everyone's going to have their crazy opinion on it, but the other point of this is, don't tell me that any one of these players is scratching the top 3 of greatest of all time or near any GOAT status of any other players like Kobe and Jordan, because I will laugh in your face.
Yeah, absolutely not.
Guys who went out and played every single goddamn game and played 110% every game, offense and defense, they deserve to be where they're at. Guys who take load management and play half a game and play defense for 3 minutes when they feel like it and everything's offense, and you see these NBA superstars letting a fucking bench player blow by them for a basket. No way in fucking hell that shit's happening back in the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s.
No, the game's changed so much into just an offensive minded game. Like the defense is a second thought. And that's why like these guys that get defensive player of the year or first team all defense, it's such a joke. Like the only person that might be legitimate, and I'm not just saying this because I'm a Sixers fan, is because of what the like all the analysts and stuff are saying Ben Simmons is probably one of the few that really does play defense and is very good at defense.
Klay Thompson, when he's healthy, Klay Thompson's usually in. And
there's like a handful, maybe 10 that I would like.
Kawhi Leonard and Klay Thompson are usually the guys that like people like generally talk about as being good two-way players. So
I mean, I get it's offensively minded, but like when you talk about defense, get out of here with that stuff.
I just want to say welcome, Carlo. I see Carlo joined us. Looks like he's a Yankees fan. He's got a Yankee symbol up for his Facebook.
No, to add more Yankees fans to this.
I know we already got two on this podcast. Now we got a Yankee fan joining us in the to watch. But that's all right.
I did wear my Steph shirt because he's been on a tear the last 2 weeks. So,
yes, I saw that. I saw he's been killing it.
He's passed Wilt for most points by a Warriors player in all-time history.
Yep. So I have one last highlight from this week that I saw in regards to basketball, and I thought we'd all appreciate, well, at least three of us out of the four, and that is it was announced that Jordan is going to induct Kobe into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
And I really thought that was very just. I'm like, if there's anybody that it should definitely be Jordan, because Kobe looked up to Jordan. Like that was his like idol, and him and Jordan had a very good friendship too. So I thought that was pretty cool to see.
Yeah, Kobe's basically came out and said now that he said that him and Jordan, like he trained with Jordan and stuff, and he did some things that like weren't public knowledge years ago, and that's came out in books and through stuff that Kobe spent some time with Jordan that not everybody necessarily knew about.
Yeah, big brother, little brother. I mean, I see it as fitting for that to be case.
I mean, Adam actually texted me a picture a couple 2 weeks ago. He texted me a picture, and it was a picture of Jordan, Kobe, and LeBron. And it said, start one, bench one, and cut one. And I'm like, oh, I know who me, Joe, and Adam are all cutting.
Sorry, Bron, you're being cut.
Yeah. And it's sad because
he's a good player. No offense. He's got skills, but I'm cutting him. If I had to pick from the other two, he's getting cut.
Well, yeah, because I think we're all on probably the same page. We'd all start Jordan, and we would bench Kobe and have him be our sixth man because he teared up. And then LeBron would be cut because I want either Kobe or Jordan to be taking the last shot because I know they're going to want to take the last shot of the game.
Well, they were also the two best defensive guards in NBA history too. They played defense. So
and not to say that they didn't ever get smoked on occasion because nobody's defense is perfect, but if you want somebody that's going to actually try a defense, those are definitely two guys you want for sure.
I mean, LeBron tried for the first 12 years of his career, but then he
evidently never got better at it.
Then he stopped. Then he kind of stopped trying, and he started letting the Warriors blow by him in the finals and watching them go by, and then that stuff started with him. So
and then he cried about the MVP. I didn't get enough MVP, number one MVP.
Then he had
votes.
one block. He had this one block that everybody's made the greatest block in NBA history, and it's so overrated. I'm so tired of hearing about it.
Yeah, it happened 4 minutes left in the game, 3-something, and it really wasn't that much of a turning point.
Yeah, especially when I've seen other players do that same exact block, particularly Tayshaun Prince. He did that so many times, chase down blocks.
He did.
So,
I personally think it would have been more interesting for Shaq to induct Kobe.
That would have been interesting. But they were on good terms though, so they were.
Yeah, by the end of it,
they were buddies. They were good.
It's hard to believe those two didn't like each other when they were playing together, but somehow still managed to win 3 championships together, which is.
I mean, if they could have won more, if they definitely would have won more if they would have stayed together.
I mean, it's easy to dislike teammates, but still be able to get along with them on the field. I mean, if you ever saw that miniseries ESPN did years ago about the 1977 Yankees, they talked about the tension between Thurman Munson and Reggie Jackson that lasted, pretty much the entire season. And a lot of people you'll hear differing opinions on as to whether or not they were ever really truly on good terms before Thurman Munson died. So, there's the shot of the game the Yankees played after Thurman Munson died where Reggie was very visibly crying in the outfield, but a lot of people said, "Oh, those were crocodile tears," and so because he knew the camera was going to be on him and shit like that.
Yeah.
So you get differing opinions about things of that sort. But I mean, I think it's cool that Jordan's inducting Kobe. I've never been a big Kobe fan. I mean, his death was obviously very tragic, but he's still somebody who I kind of keep at an arm's length. I still have issues with Kobe the man. So
yeah, there was that unfortunate allegation of, with him in a woman, it went away. We don't know why it went away. We don't know if it was really true, not true, paid off. Don't know, we never really will know, but I can see how it would taint his image for some people, and, but it is what it is. And, he did suffer an unfortunate passing along with his daughter, who they were going to her basketball game that day.
And the other family and their daughter, just young kids losing their lives for no reason,
Yep. So that's all I have for basketball. I didn't see anything that I thought was really newsworthy across the thing. Did anybody else see anything basketball newsworthy that we should discuss?
Oh, like I said, we talked about Steph, and he's been the best player in the NBA the last 2 weeks. So
he found his rhythm again.
Yeah.
I just see that the Knicks are still hanging in there, but I don't have any I don't have any illusions about what their ceiling is or anything. It's just one more round of let's see what they do in the off season.
Yeah, I hate the whole off season shit. We made some good trades, but chemistry is just not there yet, and some players got COVID and they're out, and it's a revolving merry-go-round circle of players going in and out of the starting lineup. So that doesn't help. I'm not expecting anything from my team. It's like
the same
auditions.
It's like the same thing for me following the Rangers, just to quickly detour into hockey. It's like, they're not quite there. They didn't do much at the trade deadline because I don't really think there was much for them to do, because it's mostly about them getting their younger players actual playing time now for the rest of this season. They're at the edge of playoff contention, but they're probably not going to get there. But then it's hey, in the offseason, they have cap space, and a lot of NHL teams aren't going to have cap space, and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, it's
but the same thing. Who's going to be on the free agent market too? That's the other thing.
It's kind of become, and this happens, of course, when you're doing your rebuild and everything. But it's the old Brooklyn Dodgers mantra: wait till next year. So.
No, that's Cleveland's. That's been Cleveland's mantra my whole life here.
Yeah, the Blackhawks are just on the outskirts of that playoff spot. We made a lot of trades. Traded for some good young players and a lot of draft picks, and we have a lot of salary cap now. But it's
you can rebuild in hockey sometimes easier than other sports, because that's definitely what the Avalanche did. They weren't good. They rebuilt through draft picks, and now they got COVID stuff, but they're the best. They have the best record in hockey, but now they're missing the next 3 games. But they did rebuild through the draft and stuff. Their star players are people that they drafted.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Blackhawks are semi doing right now.
Yeah, and the Rangers got good fortune because they ended up with the number 2 pick and they took Kako, and then they somehow, they totally lucked out in the fact that they had the number 1 pick this past year's draft and took Lafreniere, because they had I think the least probability of getting the pick and somehow did, and made me wonder why people weren't starting to make Patrick Ewing Knicks illusions, or they the league rigged the pick.
No, it didn't.
I mean, those guys haven't set the world on fire yet, but when you get guys who have that much talent, it's it definitely helps, accelerate a rebuild process.
No, it does.
It's just, I think it's easier in hockey, and I think in hockey, because hockey's not as prominent, it's easy to take years off and rebuild, because sometimes that's the only way. You kind of have to start all over in hockey, and Colorado wasn't good for several years.
I don't think hockey is as watered down as some other sports too. I think the talent that comes out of the college and the foreign leagues for hockey is just really that talented. I think they really have. There's a lot of talent coming out of the different areas, because Canada's a hockey area. Like there's a lot of places outside the United States that hockey is a main sport. It's not like a secondary sport here in the United States. Hockey is like, if you're going to rate sports, it's going to be football, probably basketball and baseball are close, and then hockey.
Right.
And where in other countries it's soccer and then hockey, a lot of them. So
the KHL
Canada's hockey first.
Yeah. The KHL over in Europe and whatnot. That's one of the top hockey leagues in the world on that side of the world. And there's been a lot of players who have played in the KHL. It's a high level league. What's his name was ex-Blackhawk, who plays for the Rangers, is from the KHL, Panarin. And then there's a couple other players that are in the league that have been drafted or signed, from our free agency from the KHL and whatnot. So there's good players in some of the leagues. It is easier though. Yeah. It is instead of like a 6-year window, of rebuilding, you can do it within like 2 to 3 years.
I've been following. So Steph he just tied Kobe he's at 10. He just hit 30 and they're in the third quarter. So he's got 10 straight games with 30 points. And they said Kobe's the only guy over the age of 32 to ever do that.
Dang. So that's crazy.
It's
absolutely nuts.
He's stroking.
The funniest thing too is that we talk about like how easy it is to rebuild and everything. While I don't think it's necessarily the easiest sport to rebuild, football does seem sometimes to be the easiest sport to go from being bad to good. Because we've seen plenty of times where teams bad one year and then they're really good the next year. I mean, and that can be any number of factors. That can be that you drafted well that year, that you made some good free agent signings, that you were getting the benefit of playing a weaker schedule, But it's like it is kind of interesting how often that seems to happen, But the big thing, of course, is that you gotta have the guy behind the center. It seems, and since the draft is a little less than 2 weeks away now. We got all these teams that are once again looking for the guy behind the center. So
it segues to Jeremy's football news.
Yeah,
we
can do football news if we want to.
That's what I was hoping to do. So
okay,
all right. So since you brought up the draft, there, my good man Darth Pat, the draft. Okay, so I saw
Lawrence sweepstakes.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I was.
He's going to Jacksonville.
Yeah, he's going to Jacksonville.
And that's the crazy thing. Like I looked at like a couple different mock drafts, and almost all of them have Trevor Lawrence going number 1. Like
there's quarterbacks. It's like quarterbacks. Like the top 5 picks are like 4 quarterbacks potentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you say almost all the mock drafts you've seen have Lawrence going to Jacksonville, that's a lie. All of the mock drafts have Lawrence going to Jacksonville. There is not one mock draft you will find that does not say that.
For Adam, who's a Jacksonville fan, I hope Trevor Lawrence is the savior they think he is.
Yeah, who knows? You just never know, because the college system is so much different than the NFL system. You can't run a full college program in the NFL. It just doesn't work. You got too many smart players on the defensive side.
He's a winner, and I think he's going to.
And Trevor Lawrence is from Clemson, right? That's Clemson's
quarterback. Yeah, I think
quarterback.
He's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, but like you said, you just never know.
Yeah. So,
well, now you got this whole thing where like what was it he said this week? Something about where people are like doubting his commitment or something like that.
Yeah, he made a comment like one of his comments was like he's not gonna play his NFL career like Michael Jordan and like do some all out stuff or whatever like he did to be number 1. He's gonna play his own thing, and just the words he used. He made some other comments as well. I can Google it real quick, but it was just kind of like, yeah, I'm not trying to go out there and be like, I don't want to paraphrase, but it just seemed like after I read it, like he's just going to go out there and play. Like, I'm not trying to be the best quarterback ever. I'm just going to go out there and play.
Well,
so it's kind of like,
just play, you might end up just being that by default,
Do you want to be Tom Brady or do you want to be a Maravich?
Go with Maravich. I would go with Maravich.
I think Tom Brady might have had that same approach back then, though. I don't think nobody knew anything about him. So, like, he was like,
but
Tom Brady actually came out with a chip on his shoulder and said, that was the thing to prove everybody wrong.
That was the thing. You know, Lawrence is like, I don't have a chip on my shoulder. That was the other part. He made a comment about that. It's just bring to Ed. He doesn't have a chip on his shoulder, which, I mean, why would he? He's won in high school. He's won in college pro. He has nothing to like prove. He's just going in there and he's winning. So what chip on his shoulder does he have to do? He's just going to go out there and play. So that's where I guess like him just going out there and playing, not like doing something extra because he has a chip on his shoulder. Because I mean, look at Brady. He was like 7th round. So I don't think he thought he was going to go that low. So yeah, he had a chip on his shoulder when he got his opportunity. He took it and ran with it.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll have to see what Lawrence does. Maybe what he said is fine, and maybe it's being misconstrued. Maybe there's nothing wrong with what he said. We'll just have to see how his career path takes. So
I get what he's saying, but
I'm very much of the opinion though that actions speak louder than words, especially on a football field. So
this is what he's going to do. We'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to be a horrible quarterback. I think he'll be fine in the NFL.
I don't love him because he smoked Florida State multiple times. But he also beat the suck guys.
What's going to happen?
He also beat the suck guys a couple times, so I don't have it's a middle run with him.
Yeah, he'll be a good quarterback. It's just what level of good is he going to end up being? That's the thing.
He could come in and be like, I really don't want to play. You know, I want out of my contract. I want to retire. He might be one of those guys, plays a year and just like, fuck it. I'm done with this shit. I'm retiring.
Hey, you never know. Won't be the first time.
Now this story, this is probably one of my favorite stories, and not in a good way, like favorite in a bad way. So Deshaun Watson,
here we go,
has been charged with 22 counts of sexual assault. Now,
well, let's be careful in the wording. He hasn't been charged.
Okay, he's been accused of 22 counts.
Been accused of, and he's being sued in civil court.
Right.
Oh, yes. He's not being charged criminally in any way yet. Who knows? If anything will happen there.
Yes. So thank you for correcting on the wording. So I don't want to make it sound like we're.
It is an important distinction. So
yes. I agree, and we don't want to. We don't want to be here and say that somebody's guilty without them going through due process or anything like that. But
there is a distinct possibility that something happened if this many allegations are going on. There's a distinct possibility somewhere in this there's something.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of those things where how much of it's true and how much of it's false. And
right. Well, and here's the thing, because Deshaun Watson wants out of Houston. Like, he doesn't want to be there anymore.
Nope.
But nobody wants to touch him with a 10-foot pole. Like, there is not a team. Like, you would think like the Eagles were like one of the teams like, they might go after Deshaun Watson, bring him in, let him help teach,
Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good possibility, but his price tag's way too freaking high. And then now seeing this, it's like, no, that makes sense why nobody's touching him. And, he's going to end up sitting out, and he may not, if he actually has criminal charges brought against him, depending on what if any of these allegations end up being true, he may never play again. Like he could be sitting in freaking jail.
It's very interesting in a way. And I'm not trying to minimize the allegations, because they're obviously very serious allegations, and especially when there are that many.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe this is me being me, but it boggles my mind to think that somebody could even be accused of doing what he's been accused of doing that many times.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
But the funny thing was, just like a couple months ago, my dad and I were going back and forth with discussions about what it would take to acquire him. Because a lot of the things that I was reading was saying that, like, the starting asking price was 3 first-round picks, which is pretty much unheard of. But I said to my dad, look, that's what everything that I'm reading is. So, multiple people, multiple websites and everything out there were saying that that's what the going rate was. And their basis for that was, look how many non-quarterback players have been traded for 2 first-round picks in the last couple of years. Guys like Jamal Adams and, so a few others who I just can't remember now. But a bunch of these guys are getting traded for 2 first-round picks, and they aren't quarterbacks. And quarterback is clearly the most important position on the football field. And a guy who figures to be entering his prime has performed pretty well and has done so under some bad circumstances because the Texans have been, I thank Bill O'Brien for kind of saving Penn State's program when he was there, but he really screwed the Texans up in a lot of ways with the decisions he made as general manager.
Yes, he did.
You look at some of the numbers that Watson was able to put up with not necessarily having the best support group around him, and you say, this is the kind of guy that you would trade that many picks for if you think that he's a guy that'll put you over the top. And yeah, you're right. The Eagles were a team that I thought might have traded for him. The Dolphins were mentioned. I think the Jaguars were mentioned, the Panthers. I mean, there were going to be teams that I think were going to get into it. And then Houston was really kind of dragging their feet about whether or not they really wanted to trade him or not. And obviously they're under no obligation to trade him.
Yeah.
No,
But at the same time, it becomes a situation that do you want an unhappy player sitting around or, like you said, sitting out, just sit out his contract or whatever, who the hell knows. But then the allegations start, and then it's like, yeah. So the big question, of course, will be what does happen from here? Because Houston's kind of screwed in that they don't have a first-round pick this year. I don't remember if they have a first-round pick or not next year, but they could be really, really hurting one way or the other. So
yeah.
If they trade him or not, they're not going to have us. They might not have a starting quarterback or a legit one on game one.
They, they could have a situation where he can't play because maybe supposedly a criminal case does open up or whatever. That would be very unlikely for the legal system to move that quickly. That he would be tried and convicted by the time the season starts, but may also just be, of course, a PR thing where Houston just we can't let this guy take the field. So it's not a good situation, and who knows how it's going to play out. But yeah, it's one that I don't want to wrap my head around because it's very disturbing.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It's a wait and see game with that one. This is going to play out for, I say, until at least June-ish, until we get some real stuff going on with it. There's going to be a lot of back end, behind the scenes negotiating or whatever is going to happen with the civil cases and all that other stuff. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of lawyer stuff. We'll see.
Yeah. All right. So on to a lighter topic. I got a bunch and a lot of stuff happened in the NFL that I thought was interesting. Good old AJ, you'll love this one. Clowney is being signed to a 1-year deal with the Browns.
So now they're definitely winning the Super Bowl now. It's already it's starting here. This is the year.
We got Jadeveon Clowney. We're going to the Super Bowl. Yes.
It's already started.
Yeah, I imagine so. Sam Darnold was traded to the Carolina Panthers.
Multiple draft picks.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know Panthers. I don't know if that was a good trade. I'm on the fence about Sam Darnold, but he didn't. A lot of people are saying, a lot of analysts are saying he didn't get a fair shake on the Jets.
He may not
give him enough. So he could be good, but I'm on the fence. I got to see how he does with Carolina.
They're hoping. Carolina's hoping that the guy, what the hell's his name, Brady, who's their offensive coordinator, who came from LSU and had worked with Joe Burrow at LSU. I think they're hoping that he can do something with Darnold. And there is a lot of thought that Darnold didn't have the right support system around him, didn't have enough talent around him, and that a lot of people think that Adam Gase just really screwed him up as a coach.
He did. So my thing with Carolina too is I get to a point because I live in North Carolina, so I see all the sports news for this. Mm-hmm. I get the trade for Darnold, but then you get last year you signed Teddy Bridgewater to a 3 or 4 year contract for some decent money, nothing too crazy, but for some decent money. So are you going to have a legit quarterback battle, or are you just going to be like, hey, Darnold, it's your team, and we got this high-priced backup just sitting waiting to take your job in case you fuck up or get injured. It's, I mean,
I think it has to be a competition because Darnold doesn't really, neither guy really has a track record to go off of. So I think it really has to be a competition, but that also seems to be a thing of the past where teams don't really ever want to seem to put themselves in a quarterback controversy. So they just say, this is the guy.
And it's weird. Like
they'll swap guys out as they feel like it. We've seen that happen with plenty of teams like your Bears, you know.
Oh, we can't find a quarterback for 40 some years. What the hell's the point?
Yeah. But so it's like it seems like teams go out of their way to avoid. It seems like they go out of their way to avoid the term quarterback controversy being applied because they'll say, guy X is our starter. And then if they feel the need to bench him, it's like, well, they just bench him, they put the other guy in, and then when he sucks, they change back. But so somehow or other that
quarterback by committee in the Bear country.
Yeah, but that like avoids like the term quarterback controversy from being applied for some reason.
Yeah,
it's weird. Like I watch a lot of Carolina games, of course, because I live down here. But it's weird. Like I think Bridgewater is a good quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Is he an everyday starter anymore? I don't know. It's like I saw flashes of it in certain games where he did really good, and his defense like shit the bed, and they lost games because of their defense. But I don't know. Sometimes I feel like making a move like that seemed to be like for Bridgewater. I would take it as a slap in the face when you trade for a younger quarterback like that. So, I mean, you better have a conversation with me before you fucking trade for that guy. That's for damn sure. But on the flip end, hey, if you don't want me to play me, you could pay me my paycheck and I'll tutor Darnold and keep getting paid a shitload of money to be your second string quarterback and take my opportunity when the time comes.
Yeah,
I mean, there's multiple ways to look at that. I mean, and the other side too is like don't waste Christian McCaffrey's talent. Don't.
Yeah.
Because that kid's a beast of a running back.
Yeah. Who would have thought?
He legit can do it all.
Another interesting thing I thought about Darnold was the best pick that the Jets got was a second round pick next year. And then I was seeing stories that the 49ers were offering a first round pick, and for whatever reason the Jets didn't take that offer. Seems a little strange to me.
Yeah, I mean, and it's interesting because the 49ers it's been rumored a lot that the 49ers are looking for a new quarterback and getting rid of Garoppolo or looking to bench Garoppolo. And it's like, man, like that guy can't catch a break. Like, I mean, he's not a great quarterback by any means. I'm not going to sit here and say he's a superstar quarterback, but what was he supposed to do last year? I mean, I wouldn't say they have great offensive weapons.
Yeah, like
and they had no defense.
Get injured like in the first 3 weeks or some shit.
So they're putting a lot of stake on the fact that he should have been able to do something. Like the quarterback's the most important position, but it's important because it's the kind of league it is. But if you don't put other talent around that person, it doesn't matter how good they are. They're still not going to be. You can't throw to bums.
Unless you're Tom Brady.
Yeah, well, Tom Brady's kind of the exception.
No, he is. I'm just saying that not everybody can be Tom Brady. Not everybody's going to be him. Like that's going to turn, win championships with mediocre players.
Yeah,
receiver, which is what Brady did most of his career.
Yeah. Speaking of,
I mean, Garoppolo's been a little snake bit. I mean, the injuries I think are the main reason why San Francisco is looking to move on from him. And again, with the trade that the 49ers made to move up to that number 3 pick, they're taking a quarterback.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't matter who they're taking a quarterback. They're basically taking it. And the funny thing about that is that with the way that the trade that they made and everything, they basically were saying, we're quite content to take whoever the third quarterback is, which is kind of weird in a way, but
I know
that the Jaguars are taking Lawrence, and that the Jets are taking a quarterback, probably Wilson. So, the Niners would be like, okay, we'll take Trey Lance or Justin Fields or Mac Jones, whoever we feel is the third best guy.
I mean, it was reported yesterday the Bears are trying to trade up into the top 5 to draft a quarterback. I'm like, great, let's do it again and shit the bed. I don't know.
Gotta have somebody that can bring the talent along.
We can draft running backs. We could draft defensive players. We can draft special teamers. We could draft offensive linemen and all have all those players go to the Pro Bowl, but we can't draft a fucking quarterback.
Yeah.
Nope, can't do it.
So we have
can't even trade for one properly.
We have two other I have three other things here I wanted to quick talk about in regards to football, and two of them, of course, have to do with charges being brought against players, of course, or people in the NFL. So I saw that assault charges brought against Aaron Donald because he allegedly assaulted DeVincent Springs on April 11th in a bar fight. like that's awesome. Like, what the hell is wrong with these football players? Like, they're just.
I mean, it's a catch-22 with them. It's hard. Like, who's instigating them too at the same time? But those playing, sometimes it's hard when you're a manly man to walk away from shit. When
so
people
it makes you wonder.
Shit or instigating.
Because the NFL, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, the NFL's testing process for steroids is not very stringent. It's not strict. It's kind of lackadaisical. It's kind of like, we'll call you in if we think you are possibly doing steroids. Like, it's not like mandatory testing. I think like the MLB has mandatory testing every so often.
I thought they changed it to make sure
they have to.
Yeah, I think they changed it several years ago to be more strict.
Are some of these guys doing too much steroids and they just got a lot of steroid rage going on, roid rage? So
just manly pride.
Manly pride.
Manly pride.
I think it's guys just letting themselves get caught in the heat of the moment and not knowing when to walk away, not thinking things through and stuff like that. But I mean, they have to have a steroid testing policy in the NFL.
I know they do, but I feel like when it was compared to like the MLB's steroid testing policy, it was very lax compared to the MLB. And that could have changed over years, but because I haven't heard anything in the news about that in a long time, so who knows what it could be now.
I think they do have a strict policy. I mean, you're just not going to hear about it because which sport had the most controversy with steroids? Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
My favorite, and I'm not bringing this up, taking pot shot at Penn State. My favorite roid rage thing I've ever seen in person is when Penn State played Purdue and I was at the game, like LeVar Arrington took out the kicker. So,
the thing about that is that
he did it twice in his career, so the first time's an accident. The second time, you have to start wondering.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just go, those motherfuckers have it so goddamn easy. They just need to get blasted.
Yes.
So
I was at that game and I saw it happen, and I'm like, holy shit, that is roid rage if I've ever seen it.
That kicker's dead. And then, of course, the last charge, and then I have a bigger topic that I think we'll all have some good thoughts on. Britt Reed was evidently officially charged with felony DUI and could face 7 years in prison because of, if everybody remembers, right before the Super Bowl, he had some drinks and was on like Adderall or something like that, some kind of medication, and was driving under the influence and ended up being in a horrible accident, which put a 5-year-old girl in the hospital in a coma, which is absolutely terrible. And for those of you that don't know anything about Britt Reed, including anybody on the podcast here right now, my co-host, he was also had a DWI when he was in Philadelphia before he even started coaching. Like, he ran like a stop sign or something like that and crashed his car while he was drunk. So it's not like the first time. So this guy,
are we talking about Britt Reed or the Uso brothers?
No, Britt Reed.
Or the Uso brothers.
It's just like some people just never learn and think they're above or can control the habits that they have. This guy is somebody who knows he has a drinking problem or had a drinking problem, decided it was okay to fucking have a couple drinks on top of his medication, that when you take this medication, it amplifies the effects of alcohol in your system, and decided it's okay to drive. And,
some people just like that. They just don't understand.
Because it involved injury, not to himself, but to other people, regardless if it was a 5-year-old girl or not. And it's horrible that it's a kid because that's somebody that has their whole life ahead of them. This guy should get to 7 years. Like, there should be no question about it. It should be like, here's your 7 years and good luck with your life. And I hope you remember this every day. Like,
yeah,
that's just my personal opinion, because I have kids, and I would be damned if somebody wrecked into me, regardless of who they are, and like thinks they're going to get off scot-free for injuring my family.
Especially drinking under influence and things of that nature.
Yeah.
He definitely needs a.
It's I mean, this is not really fair to lay it at this person's shoes and everything, but I mean, this is not the first of Andy Reid's offspring who had issues, because we know his one son, of course, died of a heroin overdose several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be one of those people that's going to be like with those knee-jerk reactions, but I'm going to be. It's like,
okay,
oh my God, what kind of a parent was he then? If he's got his kids growing up to be adults and doing this kind of stuff, but it really makes you wonder, because I know I think people have done more research into the subject and find that there are like genetic indicators for like addiction and everything. And so, I mean, these are two types of addictions now that have afflicted his sons here in very different ways. So it makes you wonder if there's something like that going on. I mean, it's a sad story. Obviously, absolutely horrible, of course, what happened to that poor child. And yeah, it's like, I'm fully with you there. Throw the book at him. He really deserves the fullest extent. And of course, you can make an argument that 7 years isn't sufficient.
No, definitely.
It's like how much more potentially severe would it be if the child had died? Like, like, what's like the maximum penalty for like, vehicular manslaughter or whatever charge it would be? It's like, I don't know if it's that many more years. And if you're gonna, I hate this. I hate this thought, I guess, that because you're drunk or impaired by whatever drug, that it makes you less responsible. I don't really buy that. No. I mean, you made the choice to ingest whatever, to drink what you drink, or shoot up what you shot up, or snort what you, you know what I mean? It's like you made that choice originally. So just because you were under the influence at the time where the tragic incident occurred, I mean, you were once before that fully capable of your faculties, and you made a very horrible choice. And yeah, it's just terrible to think about.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. All right.
So just because I happen to be paying attention to the basketball game, somebody just listed the stat.
Uh-oh.
So career games with 8 threes or more. Steph's at 56. Jesus. And the next closest person's at 20.
Is that Reggie?
No, it's Lillard.
Wow. Yeah, I can see that.
56 games with the 8 threes, guys. That's nuts. I know that they don't play defense and stuff, whatever. That is nuts. I didn't know he had that many. I didn't even know he was there with that 8 threes, 56 games. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a big gap there between first and second. I'll say that.
Sorry.
Sure. That's okay. No. That's a good stat. That's crazy.
What a freaking ball hog, man.
He doesn't usually shoot the ball more than like 20 or 25 times a game, though. He doesn't chuck up like a ton of shots. Like, he has to more now. Like, my friend Jay told me the other day, he's like, I kind of like it when Durant's not there, because we get to see Steph go off way more now because he has to do more.
Yeah,
he's required to score more. So we get more opportunities to see him blow up than we probably did back when like Durant was there. So
yeah, even before Durant was there, just him and Clay, they were sharing a lot of it. So I'm gonna rock my stumper trivia question here.
All right, and then we'll go into the big news that happened this week in NFL. So go ahead. What's the stumper here, Holmes?
In 1977, which by the way is the best year because that's the year I was born. Name me the Now, back in the Major League Baseball, in the 70s, there was only 4 divisions, 2 in each.
Gosh.
American League and National, 2 in each.
That's not nice. Joe's talking.
So name me the player that played for a team in each division and hit a home run with that team in each division.
In 1977.
In the 70s?
1977. This baseball player played for 4 different teams.
Pat's the only one that has a chance at this because I was 2. And I don't give a shit about anything that happened in baseball before my lifetime. So.
Oh my goodness, you
were born before 77, though.
Even before your lifetime.
So it technically is in your lifetime.
Yeah, I know, but I was 2. I didn't pay attention to sports until I was probably 9 or 10. So.
I know.
I have no clue.
Boy, I don't even think I know a baseball player in the set. Well, no, I know a baseball player in the 70s, but
these poor people we were on a podcast with.
I was gonna say, Jeremy, as a Phillies fan, you have to know at least one player.
Yeah, I know one player that was in the 70s.
Like
Michael Jack.
I mean, if it's not Mike Schmidt, it better be Steve Carlton or somebody.
Yes, I know a couple Phillies that were in the 70s, but it's funny to look at the 70s and be like, who the hell played in the 70s? Like, because I got to go to 1980. I'm like, okay, if they played in 80, they probably played in 77 and maybe in a rookie year or something like that.
They're just not like us, Pat. They're just not like us.
You're right. I am definitely not the I'm definitely not a connoisseur of America's sport. America's pastime.
Before I care.
No fun, guys.
Pat.
Go ahead, Pat. Let's see if you can do this.
So again, you said it was 1977.
Don't be fucking Googling shit either.
I'm not Googling. I just want to make sure I got the parameters of the question.
Yes.
You said this guy from 1977. He played for a different team in all 4 divisions.
Yes.
And he hit a home run for these
teams. For those teams, yes.
I want to say
this ought to be interesting.
That was a guy who finished his career with over 400 home runs.
He's going to get this.
I know. I love the way he leads it on, like he doesn't know.
He was also kind of one of the worst players because he always had like low batting averages and he struck out a lot. I believe that was Mr. Dave Kingman.
Correct.
Wow. I don't know. I've never even heard that.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
David Kingman in 1977 played for the Mets in the East, the Padres in the West, the Angels in the American League West, and the Yankees in the American League East.
Jesus.
He bounced around a lot.
Baseball journeyman.
Yeah, he played for he started with the Giants, then he went to the Mets, then he had that whole big season like Joe just said. Then he went to the Cubs, then he went back to the Mets, and then he finished his career for the A's. And he was definitely a power hitter because, again, he hit 442 home runs and only 6,600 career at-bats. So he could hit the ball out of the park, but he only hit 236. And he struck out 1,816 times. And, he led the league in strikeouts 3 times, and he struck out 150 times a year when guys didn't strike out 100 times a year. So he was definitely one of the the all or nothing players, but and because he was a DH, because he couldn't really play a position, his career WAR, as it is, because that's the big stat that baseball had to try to compare players across era is pretty low, especially for the amount of home runs that he hit. So it's like if he couldn't hit home runs, he would have been one of the worst players. But yeah, his 1977 season was pretty crazy because he started with the Mets. He was traded to the Padres on June 15th. The Padres waived him, and the Angels claimed him on September 6th. Then on September 15th, the Angels traded him to the Yankees.
Yeah.
All right. So very interesting stumper there, Joe.
Yes, me and Pat like the history of sports. It's okay. I'll try to pick something a little bit more current for you.
So
younger, older gentlemen.
I'll share out my screen here again because this is right on our topic here. And as you can see, the headline says 11 receivers who should get into the Hall of Fame before Julian Edelman. Because
probably all of them.
Because we learned that Julian Edelman announced that he is officially retiring and he will not be back for another season, which somebody said, I think it was Colin Cowherd said that that expect a call from Tom Brady and he'll be back next year, which I don't know if I believe that or not, but it's a possibility.
Colin Cowherd.
Hey, it worked with Gronk, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, that was his point. Like Gronk was retired, so
yeah, Gronk's still in better shape than Edelman.
Yeah, Gronk's also kind of a maniac. So I mean,
yeah, I expect that from Gronk.
So now, while I am not a fan of the freaking Patriots by any means, like I can't stand the Patriots, Julian Edelman, I think, has been a stand-up person as far as like a football player goes, and he's had a pretty decent career, like not crazy good, but he's definitely gonna be a Hall of Famer at some point in time. Is he a first ballot guy? I don't think so, based on his stats alone, if you just go by stats. But when you look at this, and this list was interesting because like I don't even like Pat might know some more of these guys than I do. AJ might know, or even you, Theo. I don't know, but I don't even know who Cliff Branch is. I've never heard that guy.
Yeah,
here's my. I want to say the Raiders.
I think so. Yeah,
in the 70s, I believe.
Here's my thing. I'm torn at Edelman. I'm not sure really if I
don't know if I think he's again. So
I'm not positive. For me, he's like got a 20% chance to get in the Hall of Fame.
I agree with Joe.
Well,
I go ahead.
No, go ahead, Pat.
Well, what I was going to say is I'm looking at his numbers. I'm on Pro Football Reference right now because
I see him there.
Because I'm just that good.
I see them. They're listed in the article that Jeremy Pitcher put up.
Yeah. Right. Well, no. I'm looking at Edelman's numbers. I really don't understand why we're even having a discussion. His numbers are nowhere near Hall of Fame numbers.
That's right.
If you look just at his regular season numbers, okay. His regular season numbers, he finished with 620 catches for 6,822 yards and 36 touchdowns. Those are nowhere near Hall of Fame numbers. Now, the thing, of course, that is obviously taking us into the Hall of Fame discussion is what he did in the playoffs. In 19 playoff games, he had 118 catches for 1,442 yards and 5 touchdowns. And, of course, he won a Super Bowl MVP. I just don't know that that's enough to put him over the top because, again, if you look at his regular season numbers, you also look at his ranking, his 620 receptions. That's 75th all time. Yeah. 6,822 yards. It's 156th all time. Again, in the touchdowns, he's obviously nowhere near like the top contenders.
Plus, no Pro Bowls and All Pros. That's a big key there too.
Yeah, so I can't really understand again why they think that he would be. Why people think he's a Hall of Famer. I think it again is because
he played with Brady.
It's the Super Bowl MVP, and I think it's the whole he played for the Patriots, so yeah, he won how many Super Bowls during his time there and everything.
Yeah.
But it's much different as a receiver to have Super Bowls than to be a quarterback and have Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Because hey, even the punter gets a Super Bowl ring.
Damn right he does.
I mean, the funny thing is, because you still got up there. I mean, 11 receivers who deserve to be in Canton over Julian Edelman. I look at that list, and a couple of them I'm definitely saying yes, like Reggie Wayne.
Yeah, Hines Ward.
Yeah, but then there's like John Taylor, and I'm like, no. But John Taylor to me is not a Hall of Famer, so why should
those numbers are terrible.
He's had a good couple. He had several good years.
Yeah, I mean, John Taylor played second fiddle to Jerry Rice his whole career.
Yes.
So, and John Taylor's most shining moment, of course, was catching the touchdown for Montana at the end of Super Bowl 23. But to me, it's like, so if somebody's putting here's 11 guys who deserve to be in the Hall of Fame over Julian Edelman, and I'm finding even one guy on that list who, in my mind, is also not a Hall of Famer. then
that guy.
then well, again, I'm just picking him out. I don't know enough about some of the older guys there, like Otis Taylor and Harold Jackson, to really to know enough about their career. And I'm on the fence about guys like Andre Johnson and Sterling Sharp. So it's like, to me, it's like, if I can find somebody on your list who in my mind is also not a Hall of Famer, then the guy who we're saying is not as good as those guys is also not a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things. I mean, in some of these positions, you got to remember Sterling Sharp he wasn't even a wide receiver. He was, wasn't he?
Oh, that's Shannon Sharp.
That was Shannon Sharp. I'm sorry.
Shannon was a tight end.
Yeah.
And Shannon Sharp is in the Hall of Fame because he was a tight end.
Yeah. But I mean,
if
you're going to be a wide receiver, you got to at least have 10,000 yards. 10,000 yards, I think, is respectable as a wide receiver. And there's
for somebody who played in this era of the NFL, yeah, I think you do have to have pretty big numbers.
Well, yeah, and there's what hinders Julian Edelman. So if you look at Julian Edelman's career, he was a slot receiver. Slot receivers usually don't get a lot of yards. They're over the middle. It's catch, get tackled. He wasn't the main receiver. He was a number 2 receiver most of his career, if not sometimes number 3, depending on who they had as far as a receiving core. So he's not going to have the yards. He's not going to have the catches. He's not going to have the touchdowns unless he breaks one, which he didn't do a lot. He's more known for the punt returns that he's broken for touchdowns than he should be for being one of the greatest receivers to play, because he did he did punt returns and returned a couple, returns, and a lot of people don't do that. That's a craft that as a returner that you have to hone to be able to find those seams and get to the, Devin Hester, who played for
he belongs
Bears.
in the Hall of Fame, hands down. Don't even start.
I wasn't going to say anything about him being in the Hall of Fame, but there's a guy,
greatest returner of all time,
was a master at the return game, but when it came to being a receiver, he was
average. He was average.
So
he only had 16 career receiving touchdowns. That was late in his career. Still, return. He belongs.
Yeah. So, I mean, if they put guys in for just special teams, then he probably does deserve to be in. Julian Edelman maybe gets in because of what he did as a special teams punt returner, but
no,
I'm not saying he will, but I'm saying maybe that's why he gets in.
I don't think he gets in. So.
But his stats alone are definitely not something that carries him into the Hall of Fame as a wide receiver. And it's a shame because he is a really good guy and he played a long time, but you got to have, I hate to say it, but you got to have the numbers as a receiver. You can't have low numbers as a receiver.
He gets in if they have no one to put in as a wide receiver, which won't happen because we have receivers that are towards the end of their career now and players who are in the beginning or middle of their career now, that once they're done, their names will be getting called way before this guy's.
Oh yeah. There's a lot of studs that are going to retire and be eligible a year after him that they're going, and guys that are going to be eligible at the same time as him or are already eligible that are going to get in before him. So he's always going to be at the end of the list, unfortunately.
So
I shouldn't say unfortunately, he just will be at the end of the list usually.
I also like how I saw there was like a Boston area writer who wrote an article saying like, oh, Julian Edelman's not a Hall of Famer and that's okay. And then for whatever reason, he just compared Julian Edelman to Eli Manning, saying that Eli Manning's not a Hall of Famer for the same reason that Julian Edelman's not a Hall of Famer, which struck me as being like,
is he disgruntled?
Yeah. Which struck me really is, quite frankly, being a guy who's still pissed off that Eli beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl twice. Yeah. Because it's like, okay, we just said that, and I'm not trying to make this comparison because it's a total apples oranges comparison. Eli Manning, for what you want to say, he's in the top 10 all time in passing yardage and touchdowns. He is top 10. You can argue he wasn't ever that great. He didn't have that many all pros and Pro Bowls and stuff like that. But he also was Super Bowl MVP twice. So I think his postseason stuff puts him over the top. But again, his regular season numbers are also not as low as Edelman's are. So it struck me as being a very out of left field comparison.
I think what would have saved Eli's career a little bit is if he would have retired a couple years ago instead of waiting so long.
I mean, it might have in some respects, yes, because the last few years were ugly for various reasons. I, of course, blame the front office because I feel like they wasted the last. I feel like after they won Super Bowl 46, the Giants front office basically just made a series of moves throughout the rest of the year that basically just wasted the last half of Eli's career there. So
yeah. All right, on to some wrestling news.
Okay.
Unless you got something else.
So Steph now just became. He's had 10 threes in 3 of the last 4 games.
My God, AJ, why don't you just marry Steph?
Give him a
He's
big
already
This happens to
taken.
be going on now, but this is crazy. He's had 20 games now with 10 threes or more, and the next closest person to that one's at 5.
Jeez. Probably Lillard as well.
Yeah.
So, no,
crazy.
Clay.
No. Okay.
But the 3 times in 4 games is more impressive to me. That's nuts.
Yeah. I mean, that's just that. I mean, what are you going to do against somebody? Like, I'll never forget. And I know we're kind of going back to basketball, but
that's okay. Well, I just brought it up. I was just trying to.
Yeah. But there's this one clip of him shooting a 3 with his eyes closed. And like it swooshes, like it wasn't like a bangs around the rim. It went swoosh. And it's
repetition.
Like the kind of muscle memory that requires. And this is what kids don't understand. If you want to be that good and you think you're a 3-point shooter, you got to shoot hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of 3-pointers with good form. So your muscles remember how to shoot the ball. It's not like, oh, I just jack up threes. No, it's a technique. It's a way of life.
I spent a whole summer. My summer in between my like junior and senior year, I got in a lot of trouble. So my parents grounded me.
What? What did you do, son?
I spent a whole summer in the driveway extending my 3-point range. It wasn't like it happened overnight. It was a whole summer. And I don't make all of them, but I don't really know anybody. I've never really met anybody or played with anybody that has the consistent range that I do, but it didn't happen overnight. It was something I had to work at over time to get better at.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kids just don't get that. It's like,
They
it don't
don't
happen overnight.
Yep.
Nope.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you talk about Steph being able to make those threes with his eyes closed. I mean, you know, LeBron made that shot from all the way across the court, though.
Shut up. Shut up. Such a jerk.
You know what I'm referring to, right?
Yes, I do.
That commercial from several years ago.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know how many people came up to me and said, "Was he really doing that?"
Yeah, he really did that.
I'm like, yes, he was taking a simple jump shot and it was traveling that distance and he was just swishing it.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Now we can talk about wrestling.
Yeah, let's go on to some wrestling news and then we'll hit up baseball. Because I don't think there was any hockey news this week.
We had Black Wednesday for the second year in a row. WWE cut a bunch of people.
Black Wednesday. That sounds awesome.
Well, it's because of what they did last year, and
they cut like 20 people last year. At least it was only 11 or 10 this year.
Yeah, and I mean it does happen pretty regularly every year, usually after WrestleMania, where they're like, all right, time to trim the fat.
Most of them, I don't think are. Samoa Joe would be the biggest head scratcher of the group to me by far.
Yeah, absolutely.
They cut Samoa Joe.
Yes,
they cut
did.
Samoa Joe.
I can understand that for one reason. If they didn't think that they were going to clear him anytime soon,
I mean, if he goes to AEW for a year and wrestles for a year, I'd be okay with that.
Okay. Counterpoint.
He doesn't have a lot of wrestling left in him, but
counterpoint. Let's say he shows up in AEW after 90 days. What's he going to do? Who's he going to work with?
He could fight Moxley or somebody or Omega.
What difference is it going to make? I don't see it because that's because I don't think AEW knows what to do. AEW needs to get rid of people, not bring in new people. Their roster is bloated beyond belief. So
they need a second show per se.
But I think they need, but it's like that's like a solution in search of a problem almost. The problem is basically that they have too many guys on their roster. Yeah, a second show could help, but to what extent, really? I mean, because they'll be pressured still at some extent to put the best guys on the second show at some point. So
Joe was really upset because the Iconics got cut. So
I mean, they were the
sad I was.
They were the ones who I think were actually the most surprising to me, because they were the ones who were on that list who I felt like there was still the most potential to do something with. But
yeah, that actually did surprise me that they were on there.
I feel like Peyton Royce,
it's not like they were
end up in AEW.
I think Peyton Royce, out of everybody who was on that list, if you were to tell me rank them in likelihood of who's going to go to AEW, I would definitely put Peyton Royce number one. And it's mostly because, of course, her husband's there. But yeah, she's also the one who I think that there really is the most potential with still.
To me, WrestleMania was decent. Like, I gave it a C+. Then they followed that up with a terrible Raw and
sounds about right.
Mediocre SmackDown. It was kind of they went back to business as usual. So the highlight from Raw should not have been Charlotte coming back and cutting a promo. That should not have been the highlight.
I did see that promo, and that seemed to be the highlight.
She was really good. This is like the Charlotte I want. This is the I don't give a fuck about anybody. And when she was like, karma is a bitch, and I am that bitch.
I heard people say it was one of the best, if not the best promo she's cut. And certainly the snippets I saw of it certainly seemed to be that she did it well and everything.
It was.
I gotta be honest though, that kind of Charlotte bores me, but I think she bores me. Like her character, I think, has just always bored me because it's like, oh, she is so good. So it's like, I think, watching Ric Flair in 1988. It's just gotten boring at this point, you know.
It happens. I wouldn't say
I mean, I could make plenty of references to people that were boring.
Oh yeah. I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying that it's like Charlotte to me has also gotten a lot like Orton. Orton, when he gets into he gets into a heel run after a while, the sound of his voice bores me. The way that he recites his lines bores me. It just obviously he's great in the ring. Never gonna criticize the in-ring work, but the character just kind of is like, yeah.
I don't. There's not a lot. Charlotte's not good as a face.
Yeah.
So there's not.
I know that's the problem. She really isn't. So,
Randy Orton, he talks his cadence for the way he talks is.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
I am the Viper. Talk a little bit faster. Talk with some enthusiasm.
he took too many promo lessons from Triple H.
I am the game.
I think
this week.
I think the biggest issue.
The game.
Oh, Lord. I think the biggest issue with Charlotte, I get what you're saying with that, Pat, is WWE has a trust with this female, this one, and this one. And they trust them, and they can count on them, and they can count on Charlotte. She does bust her ass and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. They count on them specific 4 or maybe 5, and all the rest. One minute they trust them, then they don't. They do, they don't. They just they're up and down with a whole bunch of all the other women. So it's kind of like she's kind of fallen into the John Cena effect, where she's the company girl. So when they count on her and they need her, she's going to come, she's going to do what she always does. And in some people, it's going to get boring or the same old song and dance. So I get what you're saying with that. But the other side, too, is she is awesome.
She is.
She's awesome. But she's kind of starting to fall into that Cena effect where they're putting her in high programs right away to be in the title and face people.
And what you're saying is right. It does seem to be. Excuse me. It does seem to be a certain.
They trust Charlotte. They trust Sasha.
Right.
They trust Bayley and Becky.
Right. That's exactly what I'm going to say. There's a hierarchy. It seems within the women's division. It's like the horsewomen are here. Everybody else is here.
Yeah.
Or here. Or
here. And they rolled the dice. at WrestleMania. They put the belts on some younger people. I don't think
right. So,
they were necessarily the right choices, but we'll see how long it lasts with them.
Right. So we'll see how it goes with Bianca, and hopefully, like, she succeeds. But like, you always felt like they never quite trusted Asuka, and obviously, the language issue is a reason why.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, I still rewind the clocks back here. I'm still shocked that Becky beat Shayna. You know, I figured that was like the most obvious, like, you know.
And now Shayna's got completely lost in the shuffle. So.
Yeah. But I felt like that was like the most obvious, you know, time for a title change, and they didn't do it. So, kind of tells you something there.
Yeah, they didn't have full trust in Shayna.
For me, right now with Charlotte, she's going to fight Asuka next week, right? On Raw.
Yes.
So my thing is, let her have her feud with Asuka right now.
Not Rhea.
Not Rhea. Yeah, not Rhea. Let Rhea do her thing. If you're going to put the all three belts, all three title belts, NXT, whatever, SmackDown or Raw, they're all, it's an NXT girl and two former NXT girls. You're going to put them on the younger females. Fine. Let them run with it for several months. To be honest with you, if you want Bianca to still feud with Sasha, okay, that one's fine. But let's put some new women with them and see what happens with them. Push some people up. You're going to bring somebody from NXT up? Great. If you're not, let's give some of the other girls a chance to wrestle against them and see what happens. I mean, to be honest with you, I know Shayna and Nia still have the tag belts, but maybe it's time for, you know, they might still have the belts. Well, let Shayna feud with Rhea or somebody. Let's throw some.
I mean, Shayna and Rhea
storylines in there.
There's unfinished business with Shayna and Rhea there, so that's definitely a storyline that they could.
Yeah. And I think they should use that. But let's see what they do. Let's keep those four girls, like let's because that's another thing too. Like, I kind of feel like they need, like, the women's division needs a mid-card belt. But then again, you know, we've seen what they've done with the men's mid-card belt in the past 20 fucking years. They pretty much shit on it. Mm-hmm. So is it worth giving another belt to the women because we're not sure what they're going to do with it or utilize it properly?
I mean, I've always said it's like, it seems like they can't book any women's feud unless there's a belt involved. But so creating a belt, it's a solution in search of a problem almost.
Yeah.
You know, situation too. But the women's tag belts, I think, are unfortunately treated too much of an afterthought because of the way that they do kind of go between the shows, because there's like no consistent challenger and no consistent program. But I'll also just say this. If Charlotte beats Rhea for that title anytime within the next 4 months, that's a huge mistake.
It's a waste.
I think most people would regard the fact that Charlotte beat Rhea last year was a big mistake, because how did it help either one of them? I mean, like, what did Charlotte winning the NXT women's title at that point really do for her? And it certainly didn't help Rhea any. So, I mean, Rhea's really got to have, I think, a pretty decent run with this belt right now. But,
yeah,
I mean, should she feud with Charlotte at some point? Yeah, definitely. But Charlotte should be putting her over. So,
yeah,
but
it'll be interesting.
I have a feeling they'll go. I have a feeling they'll go and they'll do like another like hot potato thing where they'll like have Charlotte beat her for it at one pay-per-view. Rhea beats her for it again at the next one.
Where does Becky? Like, I feel like Becky has to reappear somewhere in this, and I feel like her and Rhea is way more appealing than putting Becky on SmackDown.
We'll see. I mean, that's something they'll have to figure out.
Plus, we might have a draft in between that and Becky coming back too.
At this point, though, I wouldn't rush to bring Becky back.
No, I don't think they should.
Yeah,
I definitely don't think they should. So,
I mean, let her. First of all, let the ball be in her court as far as saying, like, okay, I'm ready to come back, as opposed to them saying, oh my God, we need you back now.
They don't need her.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think they're doing okay in that sense without her. But again, let her be the one to say, okay, I'm ready to come back.
Wait 6 months, bring her back, bring Ronda back, so we can set up WrestleMania next year.
Yeah, and then
not only that, but if they're gonna bring talent back, put matches on the damn show. Stop recapping all the time. Put the match on the show instead of being idiots.
That's why Raw's unwatchable.
They've basically, and all they're doing with everybody is they're like rehashing the programs from WrestleMania with everybody. They didn't really introduce anything super new. I'm like, oh, okay, we're gonna get to see all rematches at WrestleMania Backlash, because we can't just call it Backlash. We have to call it WrestleMania Backlash. Completely unnecessary.
Wow.
For those of you who never understood why we called it Backlash in the first place.
So the other thing that I can throw out there is, I pay a lot more attention to Meltzer's like ratings now. I've been paying more attention to his ratings now because he's that person. So like whether you like him or not, he's that person whose opinion does matter. He's been doing this for years. So
what's his website?
Wrestling Observer is what so his ratings, he released his ratings for WrestleMania this week. So he gave the triple threat match 4.5 stars. That was the highest rated match. He gave Bianca and Sasha 4. He gave Rollins and Cesaro 4. I don't have a problem with any of those ratings. He gave Sami and Kevin 3 3/4. He could have bumped that to 4. It would have been fine. And then he gave Jeremy's favorite match, Bad Bunny, 3.75. So to me, the 5 matches he gave the highest scores were the 5 matches I thought were the best matches at WrestleMania. So I didn't really have an issue with his ratings. You could bump something 1/4 of a star here or there maybe, but I don't think he was drastically wrong. But the thing that happened to make this worse for all the internet nerds and all the people that hate Dave Meltzer is Wednesday night on AEW, the Young Bucks and the Death Triangle had the best match I've seen this year.
That match was awesome.
He gave it 5 stars, and everybody's like, oh my God, here goes Dave again, doing this and doing that. That was the best match I saw in the last 2 weeks, was that match. I said it as soon as it was over. This match was better than anything at WrestleMania or the TakeOver. And all these internet people are mad because he's given the Young Bucks 5 stars. Joe just said he watched the match. The match was fucking awesome.
It's heel Young Bucks, and it's more when the Young Bucks are heel, they don't do as much high flying stuff. They do, but it's not as much, and they do more in ring, and they do like more of the heelish, like I'm gonna beat you up and all that shit. But the match was really worthy 5 stars.
I watched the TakeOver.
Who they wrestled? Sorry,
the Death Triangle. They wrestled Pac and Phoenix.
Yeah, and
so
Pac's awesome. Pac's really good, and I'm a fan of Phoenix. Phoenix is fucking awesome.
I watched the TakeOver. So and the TakeOver was good. It was better than WrestleMania, but the match that seems to be drawing the ire of some people is the Kyle O'Reilly Adam Cole match. I am a mark. Adam Cole is my favorite wrestler. I want him to have the best match every night out. People are saying that match should have been 5 stars. That match was not a 5-star match. And they're like, those are the people who are getting mad because he gave the Young Bucks match 5 stars. They're like, why wasn't this match 5 stars? I don't think that match was a 5-star match. Neither does Joe.
No, it wasn't. It's not for the type of match, no.
People hate Meltzer so much at this point, they just are looking for any reason to like bitch and moan about him. And I don't think me and Joe don't think he was wrong. That match on Wednesday was fantastic. I think, sorry to interrupt. I think it's because a lot of people. No, it's okay, Pat.
I feel like people, and I've said this myself, just feel like Meltzer just kisses the ass of the Bucks and Omega. So
they are in some of the best matches consistently, though. This didn't just happen by accident. Those guys are in the best matches most of the time.
Yeah, I've never fully bought into the Young Bucks because I just feel like they're spot monkeys. I mean, I've seen
them do a lot of hot spot. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen stuff of theirs that I like. I've seen stuff of theirs that I thought was ridiculous. I'm gonna go watch that match because you're saying it's good. So hey, I want to see a good wrestling match. So because you mentioned his star ratings. I feel like 4.5 was a little too high for that triple threat match.
I mean, if you give it 4 1/4 or 4, I would have been okay with it.
I feel like it was a 4-star match, but I got to do this. Goddamn! I got to bring up Cornette.
Oh boy,
Here we go.
another guy that people love to hate.
This is going to get
good old Jim Cornette.
This is going to get more general because I'm actually curious to hear your guys' opinions. Okay. So he did it like on his, because he does 2 podcasts a week, and on his Tuesday one, he did his big WrestleMania review.
He does 2 a week? Well, that's too much for him.
Yeah. So, spoiler alert. He didn't like a lot of it. He did like some parts of it. He liked the Cesaro Rollins match. He liked Rhea winning, though he's not a big fan of Asuka. He said a lot of the same things that we did. Like he thought the ending to the Lashley McIntyre match was weaker than weak. But he, surprisingly to me, because I quite frankly was expecting him to say that it was good. He did not like the triple threat match all that much. And the primary reason was this. He doesn't like the WWE stipulation of the triple threat match, which is that it's automatically no disqualification. To him, that means it's lazy booking, because then there's, you can just ignore the rules. You can do it where it's like, one guy gets taken out of the match for like 3 or 4 minutes, he disappears, and then like they repeat it with like the next guy and everything like that. So in the general sense, not specifically applying it to the Reigns Edge Bryan match from WrestleMania.
Right.
But do you think there's any merit in what he's saying, in that when you book a triple threat match and you automatically make it no disqualification, that it can hurt the match because it makes you not have to think as hard about how you're like getting to the end?
We already kind of hit on this when he said he thinks no DQ matches are lazy booking. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. They're not all the time a bad decision. So it's a case by case basis. I don't have a problem with that stipulation being in the triple threat matches for WWE, because I've been watching it for so long that I expected we were going to see some kind of interference from the Uso in that match. Like, we all knew that was coming. So I
think that's one of his big complaints, was that there was too much Jey Uso in the match.
I mean, there was, but that's Roman Reigns' whole thing right now. Like, that's part of his shtick and his gimmick and stuff, is the members of his family help him win sometimes. That's part of what makes him the tribal chief and stuff. So if you can't have that, you're kind of taking away from what's making Roman. I mean, that's what Adam Cole did for 3 years. And he always had his lackeys. He was the heel champion. He always had his lackeys helping him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the heel wrestling thing. You cheat to win sometimes. And that's what's made Roman. Cheat to win.
Well, that's what WWE's turned every heel into, is a cheat to win kind of heel. At least I feel like that. At least when it comes to the male wrestlers, maybe not the females so much, but for the male wrestlers, it's like every male wrestler's got to be a cheat to win heel wrestler, and it gets
unless you're Brock,
right? Unless you're Brock,
yeah.
And the funny thing is, guys like Lashley and Roman shouldn't be cheat to win guys, because they are huge guys, so they shouldn't have to cheat to win.
Right. It makes sense with Roman's gimmick right now. That's the only reason.
That's the only reason.
Yeah.
Is it makes sense.
It's like doing it once in a while is fine, but it's like they shouldn't have to rely on.
I actually agree with Cornette. I get tired of seeing the no DQ and triple threat matches.
I think they just do no DQ too many times overall.
There's certain triple threat matches where there's no need for a no DQ.
Yeah, and that's something else that he was saying, like what Jeremy just said. There's too much no DQ.
Yeah,
because like I think there was other matches on that card that of course were no DQ. So
yeah, it just makes every match. You might as well just call it the freaking Extreme Rules match, because every match is turning into that. Then
the other thing too is like I get like Roman's his stick right now with Uso helping him all the time or interfering. I still think if that match was there was DQ in it, Uso still could have came down and done stuff, and they could have played it off where a ref bump, getting distracted by Heyman, whatever, some old school stuff or whatever. You just multiple ways you can do it where Uso can still get involved, use a chair, whatever the case may be. But I kind of agree with them. It's like anytime you have a match as like a triple threat, a 4-way, like everything just seems to be a no DQ. Like where are you putting the limits in regards to that? You need to tame that down.
Yeah.
Just a notch.
They need to look at the gimmick of the characters in it and say, does this make sense based on the character's gimmick? If it doesn't make sense to have it a no DQ, then it doesn't. Maybe we don't need to do that for this match. The WrestleMania one, it made sense because, as AJ's mentioned, Roman Reigns' stick, his gimmick right now is he's the head of the table. He's the tribal chief. So he's going to have lackeys that are going to interfere in his match. So it's got to be no DQ so he doesn't get disqualified for the match. And there's a true winner of the match.
Yeah, he can't use the DQ as keeping his title stuff, all that good.
I mean, WWE's been doing this. They love the triple threat match. They love the triple threat match at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. And so there are times, Pat, where he's right. WWE is guilty of lazy booking for sure. Like I'm not going to argue with them. It doesn't even have to be a triple threat match with no DQ for them to be guilty of lazy booking. So they're doing lazy booking right now because instead of trying some new stuff, we're just going to book the same fucking feuds from WrestleMania and do them all over again because that sounds like a fantastic idea.
Because we couldn't get enough of WrestleMania in 2 nights, we need to see it again one more night.
here's a, and I like AEW, but I will pick on AEW from time to time. They've turned into, let's have a big brawl at the end of the night with lots of interference and stuff. Like that's every fucking week. It's like the NWO on WCW at the end of the episode.
Yeah, there's just like these random interferences and people coming out, and some of it's story related, some of it doesn't seem like it's story related. And I'm like, I don't know why all the time.
Well, hey, I mean, the last 2 episodes of Nitro on that review show were the one where like they came out and they attacked like Sting, Luger, and the Horsemen at the end, and then the week after that was where they came out and attacked the Horsemen in the Dungeon of Doom, and the Giant came out and turned heel for the first time of the 1,384 times that he did so in his career. So, but anyway, one other quick thing that I wanted to ask you guys about the triple threat at WrestleMania. Do you think it would have been better if it had been an elimination match?
Yes. I would have been okay with that.
I would have been down for that. That would have been something different they haven't done in a while.
Yeah, because it's like, I get why they like the triple threat match. I honestly do. And
I know someone else that used to like triple threat matches too.
ECW?
No.
Oh.
Anyway,
I was a little confused. I'm like, what?
He knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, it's like I feel like they don't do elimination matches often enough, and if their whole thing is like, well, it'll take too long to do.
Well, they had the women's tag team turmoil. That was an elimination style match.
They do it in tag teams, but they should do it more in like singles.
That's a little different because it's not like everybody's in the ring at the same time and everything.
In defense of myself on that one, Joe, I was trying to get everybody on the card.
I know.
That's exactly what WWE tries to do. They got to get everybody on the card.
Yeah, but we were a podunk federation with some of us were playing 4 characters.
And some of us were just playing with ourselves.
Someone else like triple threat matches too. That'll be discussed on a later episode, people. You'll find out about all that.
I like elimination versions of them better, though.
Yes.
So,
yeah. I think they're more, but I think they could be a lot more entertaining.
More drama in that elimination.
And my friend Zach actually pointed this out to me after WrestleMania. There was not a lot of drama in a lot of the WrestleMania matches. It wasn't just the women's matches. There wasn't a lot of false finishes in any of the matches.
Which is surprising.
So, there was very minimal drama over the course of WrestleMania other than the triple threat main event. That's the only one. And once again, we don't need 15 AEW false finishes, but I would have been okay with 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So I drama in a lot of the matches.
I've said that too about like whenever I watch an episode of Dynamite and I'm like, why are there 6 false finishes on a goddamn television match? That's ridiculous. Like, why are they kicking out of like what looks like finishing moves and stuff? Yeah, there was a surprising lack of that at WrestleMania, and it's like if there's any show that screams out for that, it is WrestleMania. It's like WrestleMania is the one time where it's like I'm not going to complain if I'm seeing like Stone Cold kick out of the Rock Bottom and then the Rock kick out of the Stunner and everything. It's because it's WrestleMania. That's the whole point of making it feel special. That's why you kick out of that. It's like, and this is going back to the pre-false finish era, but that's why. When do you have Hulk Hogan miss the leg drop? At WrestleMania, when he's dropping the title to the Warrior. That's because
he sells his butt hurts really bad.
Well, yeah,
my ass,
but that's what makes those moments feel special and feel important. So
it's done too much on TV shows.
That Young Bucks Death Triangle match, there's definitely false finishes in that match for sure.
So I'm sure there is, but
they were, to me, they were the problem with some of those teams that they have, like the Bucks, and they have Pac and Phoenix or Pac and Penta, whatever combination you're getting of those three in the Death Triangle. The Young Bucks have like 15 moves they can use as a finisher. So they have a lot of tag team moves, whereas we don't see a lot of tag teams anymore that have like 5 tag team moves. The Bucks have about 10. So something that if you don't watch them all the time, you could perceive it as a finisher. But like somebody like me and Joe who watch them all the time, we know that's not one of their finishers. So they do a lot of, because there's one spot I distinctly remember where somebody was like trying to do like a snap suplex off of the ropes and it turned into a Canadian destroyer. It was fucking fantastic. So
innovative, different.
They do some innovative stuff, and when you get Pac and Phoenix and any combination of those guys in the ring with the Young Bucks, you're probably going to get something that. It was the first match on the show too. That sometimes AEW does their best match first, so it's weird that they don't save it for the end. They do it right off the bat. It's happened multiple times.
Yeah. That's kind of their thing for some reason. I don't know why. I mean, it's not that it's bad per se, but then depends what their ending is. I mean, not live up.
The ending match was fine. Darby doing the coffin drop off the top of that thing was cool, but we got the shenanigans with all the interference and stuff in that match.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's what kills it.
Yeah. Hey, another quick question about AEW with some of the stuff that I've been reading, like from the results over the last couple of weeks and everything. But is there anybody on their roster who is not in a faction?
It seems like nothing. It seems like the faction in AEW.
Yeah, it seems like nothing but faction. Like
thing.
It's like worse than the whole gang war period there of WWF.
That's why I want them to have like a 3-man tag team belt. I think if any wrestling can get away with doing that, it's them.
Yeah, they can get away with the trios tag belts.
I remember the WCW 6-man tag belts.
I do too.
So do I. I do as well.
They do have a lot of factions, Pat, and I don't think that I'm trying to think of somebody who's not in some kind of we even have a Job Squad knockoff. We have QT Marshall's The Factory, which is the Job Squad rip off, and we had the guy from the Olympics the other day who punches somebody. He stole the Big Show's move for his finisher. So
he did. Yeah, I'm not sure who's not Moxley. He's not in a faction.
But him and Kingston are kind of a group. They don't have a name, but him and Kingston are kind of together.
Yeah, and Darby Allin's tied with Sting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
That's crazy.
Not really anybody that isn't tied to some kind of faction somehow.
Well, what is it they're doing with Christian now? Like Taz is pissed that Christian didn't join his faction.
Yes, so Christian's not in a group.
Yeah, Christian's not.
And Britt Baker is not in a group either.
I thought she had hangers on though.
She just has Rebel. Rebel, and she's just a valet. She's not a wrestler. So
okay, so
she could wrestle, but she's not.
It's not quite like Moxley and Sting, or Moxley and Kingston.
No, Moxley. In fact, Moxley and Kingston actually, the two of them have been absolute entertainment together. They're like an old married couple when they cut promos together. It's fucking awesome.
They're good promos.
Cornette has liked their promos a lot over the last couple of weeks.
Their promos are pretty fucking good.
I mean, listen, Kingston's always. I've seen Kingston's promos in the indie circuit. He's always been He's always been good at it.
Kingston reminds me of Kevin Owens a little bit. So he reminds me of Kevin Owens a little bit. So
yeah, see the resemblance with that. Yeah, I don't know. Christian's the only one that's not.
And Britt Baker.
And Britt Baker.
That's good.
And I guess Miro right now because he kicks it because him and Kip Sabian broke up.
Yeah, yeah. You know, Miro's on his own now.
Oh my God! The best man went away.
Best man went bye-bye.
All right. So, is there any baseball news? Is there anything that happened in baseball that's worthy of talking about?
No.
Well, there was a couple
terrible pitching.
I did see there was a no-hitter.
So what was that? Rodon lost the no-hitter on a hit by pitch in the ninth inning.
Yeah, he lost the perfect game. The perfect game. Yeah. Yes. So a douchebag from the Cleveland Indians. Go figure that out.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I said douchebag. I don't care right now. The ball, it was a curveball breaker and going down, and he didn't move. He just let it hit him, and it hit him in his foot. And he supposedly didn't know that the perfect game was going on. Now, here's the thing.
So full of crap.
Yeah, I'm not buying that.
He really didn't attempt to move out. Like, technically, per the rules, you're supposed to attempt to move out of the way. But some people are like, well, it was by his feet. How was he supposed to see it? I'm like, it was a breaker that was coming pretty much at him.
All of a sudden, the batter's blind. I couldn't see. The sun was in my eyes.
Yeah, there were some people pissed off about that. And then some other people were like, oh, it's baseball. He doesn't have to move and blah, blah, blah. So you want to argue about that, fine. But yeah, he got hit on his back foot, which broke up the perfect game, but he still got the no-hitter. Carlos Rodon, who has had an up and down career. He is fully healthy now for the White Sox, and they have a new pitching coach there finally. And this new pitching coach seems to be paying off for him specifically.
Good.
So, yeah. And then we had the other dude who pitched a no-hitter for
San Diego.
Yes. First time in San Diego history.
Yep.
Wow, that's crazy. So there's been 3 no-hitters. That's something that doesn't happen too often. No-hitters are pretty damn hard to come by.
No, they are.
They are. And it's like,
seem to be a little bit more happening lately.
Yeah.
We only had 2 last year.
Yeah, at the same time, it's like with the increase in like strikeouts and everything, it's also not extremely hard to see where it can happen because pitchers are throwing harder, guys are just swinging for the fences, this and that, and I actually on that kind of sort of on that subject. I don't know if you saw this, the Atlantic League, which is an independent minor league, is going to be they're going to be testing a couple of things for the major leagues, basically. And various levels of the minor leagues are doing different things differently this year too. But the Atlantic League, they're going to move the pitching rubber back a full foot. The hope is players will have a little bit more time to read the ball, and it will lead to an increase in balls in play. So there will be less strikeouts. So there will be less strikeouts. Yeah, more action in the game will help. So I'm fine with them testing something like that out. The other thing they're testing out in that league is that if you remove your starting pitcher from the game, or when you remove your starting pitcher from the game, you lose the DH. That supposedly is a reason to try to like limit pitching changes and like keep their starting pitcher in the game longer. I personally think that's a terrible idea for a couple of reasons. If your starting pitcher doesn't have it, If you have to pull him in the 3rd inning because he's given up 8 runs already, then you got to do it. But then you're going to play the rest of your game without your DH. I think that's just really stupid because how's that going to help? That's actually going to lead to more pitching changes conceivably because you're not going to have these relief pitchers hitting. So you're going to be using pinch hitters, and you're going to be going through your whole roster quicker, not just your bullpen. So I think that's a bad idea, and that'll be proven to be a bad idea, especially because the CBA expires in the offseason, and that's going to be contentious. I mean, don't be surprised if there's a strike or a lockout. And but they really need to bring the DH
Yes.
back to the National League. They need to just go with the universal DH going forward and just be
It
done
needs
with
to happen. It legit does. I don't want to watch pitchers hit anymore. Could care less.
Yeah.
Yeah, because most pitchers, they can't hit anyways. Most
No, they
pitchers are
can't.
terrible.
They can't.
So it's a wasted at bat.
The collective batting average, and not just batting average, but it's like slash line, batting average on base, slugging of pitchers is just, it is so ridiculous, is that you could really have the worst guy on your AAA team come up to the major leagues and he'd hit better than the pitcher would. So
yeah.
I mean, since we're talking about pitchers, this is a horrible stat for before the Cubs played today. Their batting average as a team was 132. And guess who had a better batting average than the Cubs so far this year? Every single starting pitcher in Major League Baseball combined was hitting 145 or 146.
Oh my God.
That's how bad they were hitting.
What the hell is wrong with the Cubs?
Before today's outbreak of runs and 6 home runs that they hit, I think Javi Baez was leading the teams in hits with 8.
Do they go up to the batter's box with blindfolds on and hope for the best?
Yeah, I was going to say they're hitting worse than the Yankees, and
Yankees.
And the thing about like Pat bringing up the Moundbia move back and experimenting. One of the things I was having a conversation with one of my friends in a group chat that are White Sox fans. It just kind of seems like hitters today don't care if they strike out. They're just kind of like, they want to hit that big double. They want to hit that home run every single time. Like, you don't see a lot of guys who just want to get a base hit, or they try to hit an opposite field home run. Okay, great. But no one cares if they strike out anymore. And that's why strikeouts just keep going up and up and up. And I think you're kind of seeing more of these chances. I mean, besides the no hitters we've had a couple other games where pitchers have gone into the 6th, 7th, and 8th inning with a no hitter already, and lost it. But they're going deeper in games with it because the players just don't care if they strike out. They have another chance coming up in an inning or two. So just the mentality as far as hitting is not the same as it was.
I think some of these guys have fallen too much in love with the whole concept of exit velocity, and it's like,
yes,
that exit velocity only matters if you actually put the bat on the ball.
Yeah.
I like to put the bat on the ball.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I bet you really do.
It's like I understand.
And Jeremy just likes the balls.
I understand
just
why I understand why strikeouts are up a lot of times, and a lot of times I just go, it's that's the way it is. It's like, oh well, look at the pitch the guy threw, or look at how's he supposed to hit that 98 mile an hour high fastball, shit like that. But at the same time, it does just make you just kind of go,
yeah. All right, well, I don't have any other news. Sounds like baseball's been kind of boring. For America's pastime. But it's just the beginning of the season. It's gonna warm up. We got weeks and weeks and weeks of baseball to come.
Yeah, I mean, typically they always say about, well, wait until the weather gets a little warmer. I mean, usually the first couple of weeks of the baseball season are always a little dicey because the weather's still not great. Like the ball usually doesn't carry as much as it does when the weather gets warmer.
Well, yeah, it's cold as shit up here in Pennsylvania again. What the hell?
Yeah, and
45 degrees also, again.
Yeah, there is also
you guys.
They
down here.
They supposedly made changes to the ball again this year, so I don't think we've really seen fully what the effects of that have been yet either. So it's one of those things where you just got to wait and see. Like they always say, the baseball season's a marathon; it's not a sprint. It's not like football where you only play 17 games a season.
Spoiler alert for anybody who didn't know.
Yeah. Where what you do in one game or 2 games, could kind of like ruin your whole season. You gotta take it series by series. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, since we don't have any other news, we had a good stumper. We had some good discussion. And for everybody that's watching us or catching this, whenever you catch this, or listening to wherever you listen to it, I hope you enjoyed the show. Our show is going to be more like this format where we're just going to talk sports. We're going to give our opinions. We're going to just talk bullshit. And every once in a while, we'll have an exact topic that we'll talk about, but we'll always let you guys know when that's going to be. but we want to start covering like sports around, around the league and not just like local yokel sports like some of these other places do. We're going to be a little bit more like ESPN, but only freaking better because it's us.
The old school ABC. What was that around the world crap they used to do back in the 80s?
The wide
world of sports.
Don't catch us. Don't plan on seeing or hearing us talk about like soccer or polo or any kind of weird sport like that, because that's just not us.
The Olympics are coming up, man. Can't talk about.
We will talk about the Olympics, that's for sure. Because I always enjoy. I enjoy the Summer Olympics. I enjoy the Winter Olympics, so we'll definitely got to talk about the Olympics.
I've always enjoyed the summer more than the winter. I'm just afraid
of bodysuits in the
I'm
Winter
just afraid.
Olympics.
I'm just afraid that this Summer Olympics is still going to be a bit of a letdown because there's still just going to be too much COVID impact. But maybe not. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see what happens.
All right. So we want to thank everybody that joined us on Facebook Live today. We did have quite a few people join us, so that was really nice. We appreciate you guys joining us. Shout out to everybody that's catching us after this on YouTube, or if you're catching it on the audio version, wherever you're catching that, either Apple, iTunes podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and Amazon Music. We're all over the freaking place now. We appreciate you listening in, and stay tuned to the next episode because it's going to be another crazy, goofy episode where we talk more sports and stuff like that. But we do want to sign off and say good night, good afternoon, good morning, and we'll catch you on the next episode.